Differentiation, what I see in Zoho Schools is these two things, where we adapt to the newer technologies very soon. The things which is coming in future is where we adapt now. So that's the first thing. And the second aspect is we'll help them to learn by themselves.
So what defines a successful career? Is it the educational qualifications you have or the environment that enables you? In today's conversation, we get to hear from someone who's broken those norms and built a career for himself in an unconventional way. Joining us today is Saran Babu, who is a product manager for Zoho Creator, Zoho's low-code platform. He's also a proud alumni of Zoho Schools, which is Zoho's initiative to provide a meaningful alternative to a conventional education. Hi Saran, welcome to our podcast series. Very excited to have you here.
Thank you.
Okay, so today's conversation, we want to kind of focus on your journey as a student from Zoho Schools to all the way now as a product manager for our low-code platform. So let's start at the beginning, right? That turning point in your life, which was joining Zoho Schools. So how did all of that happen? How did you decide to go on an unconventional way after your high school and join Zoho Schools? Could you tell us a bit about your journey there?
It's been a long story. It started in 2005. During my high school, I think it's during the high school time, during your final exams, Zoho came and they did sort of an aptitude test to basically test how we work on mathematical problems and all the stuff. So it's a mandate from the school to make sure everyone attends the test, and somehow I got cleared. I was little passionate about maths and other things, so I somehow got cleared. And once I say like you have to get into an interview, that's where I got panicked and asked my parents to see like if I can go there or not. They said like they just went on to see the place. It was so big. So I'm from a modest middle class family. So my father was just 9th standard. My mom didn't went to school at all. So they left it to me to make a decision to attend the interview or not. They just tried to get into the interview. It was more of a casual conversation for an hour to understand about myself, my family and all the things. I just went alone, had a conversation with a couple of faculties, and it was so good that the first question is basically they asked me to give an overview of what I do, what I can do and all the stuff in English. So which I was not that comfortable. I didn't went to a English school at all. So it is basically I can speak in my mother tongue Tamil, where I started explaining what I can do and all the stuff. They say like you got selected. Somehow I got selected, and it is 18 odd people in which 6 of them got selected. I'm one of them, and I've been the first person to got selected. And basically how I made this decision is something which I'm still wondering. And it's more or less where I got my parents also in after the second round or something, where give them a glimpse of what the software company looks like. And I haven't touched a computer even in my schools. So the first time I was so energetic and so passionate to basically operate a computer. I really wanted to be an electronic engineer. That's the reason I was so passionate to actually look at the system and all the stuff, but ended up being a software developer, and now I've been a product manager.
Okay. Did you know what you're getting into? Like, were you aware of what Zoho does?
No, not at all. I was told that I will start learning programming. Initially, it was when I started learning, it was basically HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and then C++ and other stuff. It was in a slow phase, but we were learning together. And when they given the interview, during the interview, it was more of, they were saying like you're going to learn how to speak, communication, making yourself in a stage and getting into the programming and becoming the software developer. And they say like it's the first batch. So it's again an experiment where I didn't have anything to lose. So I went on with it.
Saran, you mentioned about you were good at maths. How good were you at programming? Did you have any experience with programming in school?
It is more or less going through your curriculum in a theoretical way. It is more of memorizing what you learned, like what you do in English and other languages. It is more on the aspect of memorizing and pouring it in the computer via a typewriter. That's it, nothing else. So that's the level of my programming at the time.
Okay. So you were the first batch of Zoho Schools, right? So what was the curriculum at that point of time? How long did you train in Zoho Schools? And could you tell a bit about what all did you learn in that?
It's a total of 18 months, in which first 6 months is more on the angle of learning, where it's split it across as 3 core subjects, or 3 categories, in which the first one is communication. Basically, you have to start talking in English, or not specifically in English, basically to communicate what is running on your mind. That's the first thing they will teach. And the second aspect is mathematics, basically problem solving. If you come across something, you basically need to have the logical skill set to solve the problem, and then that logical answer is what going to translate in programming. So that's a second aspect. And third aspect is basically programming. Inside programming, we started with C, and then went on to C++, and then learned HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, which are my favorite subjects, where I'm more inclined towards UI, UX, and other things. So I was more inclined towards HTML, CSS, but I learned C and C++ as a core subject. And after 6 months, I went on to get into a team. I had an interview there also. And once I got an interview, I'll have an option to select which time I have to get inside. So it's basically a pool of, you get an opportunity to select what team you want to work on. I got to work on a framework team, and in which it is completely different. They were using Java. Many teams were using C at the time, but I ended up in Java primarily to explore what the language is and all the stuff. So because I learned C++, Java was slightly better. I got into it very quickly. So it's been, from there it started.
Oh, got it. So you said you were in that framework team. When did you get introduced to low-code platform, which is Creator? And how was that like?
So it was around 2005 end. Zoho Creator was launched in 2006, but internally we're running in a beta test. So during my tenure of 6 months, during that end of 2005, I got introduced to an app called Zoho Creator within an internal forum where we discuss a lot of things. So that's where it came in, and it was exploring what it is. So being a software developer, building a software takes a lot of time, right? Say, to put a simple contact us form, it takes at least a couple of days to do it. But within Creator, I did it in a couple of minutes. So that's the interest it created. And from there, I really wanted to be part of Zoho Creator team. But I was selected in the framework team before that. So I ended up with Zoho framework team, and then slowly went on to Zoho Creator.
Okay. How did that transition happen?
Within the framework team, I was working on a couple of projects. One on the hardcore Java programming, where I was writing day-in-day programming on Java, and then went on to take another project called, it's a client framework where I can explore my UI UX aspect there. So I started doing a client framework on it. So once I started doing that, I got a confidence that I can do mix of both front end and the back end together. And then I approached my boss Haider a couple of times. So he said he'll look for an opportunity, and within a couple of years, I ended up in Zoho Creator as a software developer. So
wow. So look at that journey, right? From being a high school graduate to probably in a year's time, you are here in a big organization contributing so much. So this product is something definitely you're passionate about. Could you tell more about your contribution? How has that been with Zoho Creator?
I want to step a bit back and talk about Zoho Creator a bit more, where Zoho Creator as a platform itself is more on the angle of, it's not a ready-made software, right? So it's sort of a platform where you can build a tailor-made software on top of it. Traditionally, I've been a traditional software developer, where if you want to build a software, you have to learn front-end programming, back-end, server stack, all the technologies, caching, all the stuff you have to learn. So that's where Zoho Creator comes into picture, where it abstracts all of it, where you'll focus more on the logical skill set. and more on the UI and UX. So that actually pulled me towards Zoho Creator. I really wanted to invest more time on it. So I'll give an example. The applications I built on Zoho Creator on 2007 and 8, it still runs. It's still, and even before an iPhone or Android launched, the app which I built on web app, now it is running in mobile without making any change. So that's where the Creator is. So that's an investment I made myself when I was part of Zoho Creator. So we started building a technology which sits at the underneath. It can serve both web and mobile, and started serving any sort of a technology is coming in the years. So that's the biggest achievement I at least appreciate myself when I'm doing this.
Got it. So you mentioned you also started out as a developer. Do you think low-code platforms, is it a threat or is it a boon for developers out there? What is your take on it?
It is absolutely a boon for everyone. It's not a professional developer or not. I'll take professional developer for an example where it has all the layers. When you say low code, it is not basically a low code. It caters each side of the spectrum, where it starts from no code to a code and then being end up with a professional coding as well. So it has proper professional coding support as well. So that's how the low code terminology came in. So low code is nothing but a no code and a pro code together. So it has everything inside it. So that gives a power of a layman, like a business user or a typical high school graduate like me can start building an application on top of it, and to a business user and to a professional developer also. So that's what Zoho Creator is meant to be. So I would say like that's a power of low code.
Got it. And for Zoho Creator, what are those standout features that you think are a game changer in the industry?
Low code has a lot of flavors. In general, a lot of competition does it in different way. But specifically, we take Zoho Creator. From the beginning, it's the core aspect of Zoho Creator is to make it better in a way where if you're doing something which is easier, we have to make it as simple as possible. That if you're doing something which is harder, we have to make it easy. So that's a core aspect of it. Make it better always. So we really spend more time on and user adopting the product more. So the adoption aspect of Creator is what we spend more time on. So that's a changeover, or that's a unique selling point. We see it across competition. So Zoho Creator is I would say like it's a number one product where you can adapt to low code as soon as possible. You ended up in Zoho Creator. So that's first thing. And another standout feature I would say like it's called portals. You can build web and mobile app portals for your vendors, students, and other things. We are being the pioneer in building portals. So it's been running so good, and competition follows us as well. So they are started building portals now. We see a huge value there.
Mm-hmm. This question is something which I'm also excited to hear from you, which is you've seen different versions of Creator, right from the beginning back in 2005 to where it stands now. And obviously the platform has changed a lot. What are some of those, changes that have happened that is your favorite, which you have seen or which you have experienced?
As I mentioned, the one biggest, even before I joined Zoho Creator, the biggest step we took where we started developing our own language inside Zoho Creator. Because as I stated, you need to have a professional developer flavor as well. So at the same time, we don't want to complex the programming also. Being a software developers or a software company like Zoho, we really want to provide a language where we don't need to spend too much time on, I would say like not junk codes. It is basically you need to have a lot of things which is not relevant for a business logic. So we wanted to avoid that, and that's the reason we built a programming language called Deluge, and which is built on top of Zoho, which runs on Zoho's cloud. So that's the first step we did, where any interface you build on, any interface you interact with the no code, it automatically generates Deluge at the backend. So if you wanted to customize on the code level, you can even customize on the code level. That's the first, I would say like that, the differentiator among all the competition. So that's there. And next bigger step we did is where we wanted to bring in the mobile aspect towards Creator, which I stated, where it's a differentiation again. The web app you built years before an iPhone and Android launched, now it runs on Android and iPhone, even in iWatches. So that's an impact it creates. So that changes is where made the low-code platform better. So those are the two things I would say.
Got it. You mentioned about Deluge. For viewers out there who are not very familiar, what can you compare that to that exists somewhere out in the world? Like, is it something like Java? Is it something like any other coding languages?
I would say, like, if it is something, if you start categorizing a programming language in easy to harder to adapt, the languages just are on top are basically JavaScript, Go, Python. That is where Deluge also sits in. So it is easier to adapt. So even before Python launched, we had Deluge programming. So that's the intention of it. We want to make it as simple as possible. To relate more or less, it is more or less similar to what a jQuery or JavaScript will look like.
Okay, got it. So as someone who's involved in the low-code industry for so long, what do you see as the trends that are coming in, or how do you see this industry evolving to adapt to the changing business needs?
During our initial days, low-code is primarily meant to be used in two areas. One is building a websites. Another one is more on the aspect of building an app. So apps been the pioneer in low-code development. So now we see a trend where everyone is consolidating. So right from applications to an integration platform like iPaaS, to a RPA, robotic process automation, everything has been consolidating into a one single an umbrella of low-code platforms where because each one of us is needed. When you start building tons of applications, each has to interact with each other. Each has to interact with your legacy systems. So that's where the integration comes in. And even now, most of the legacy system doesn't have an way to interface with the cloud software. So that's where RPA comes in. So our investment is also on that direction, where in couple of months' time we are launching RPA also. That's something which makes the entire story better.
Okay, so integrating and bringing together multiple things, packaging as a
all
platform.
All low-code are coming together as a one provider.
Definitely.
And the market consolidation is also happening.
Okay, that's very exciting. And you mentioned, we discussed about Zoho Schools. So that is definitely an unconventional way of, education, right? How do you think an initiative like this or a Zoho Schools is going to change the way the future generation is getting introduced to low code or in general to technology? How do you think that would impact, community out there?
Got it. So when you step back a little, a typical school education or a matter of any college, university educations where it is more on the aspects of they don't adapt to the newer technologies more often. And that's the biggest pitfall, I would say. And next thing is where people don't learn by themselves. It is basically someone poured in on your mind. You'll start understanding what they are saying. So the differentiation, what I see in Zoho Schools is it's these two things where we adapt to the newer technologies very soon. The things which is coming in future is where we adapt now. So that's the first thing. And the second aspect is we'll help them to learn by themselves. It is not the other way around. We don't push them to learn this. Instead, we'll make sure their interest is driven towards something and we'll help them how to approach a problem. Then we'll solve the problem for them. So that's a change youngsters has to, or the school's education has to move forward.
Mm-hmm. Got it. So another thing is how involved, I know you're the first batch, so do you still stay in touch with the schools, and how do you plan to contribute it to more? How's that?
I mean, at least for the last 5-6 years, I was not able to do. Primarily, I've been sucked up more on the product side of things. I was there till my initial 10-12 years. I don't spend more time on it. Obviously, I'd go once in a while, talk to the students, and still I recruit a lot of people to my team. So that is there, but I don't actively contributing right now. So which is hurting a lot, but it is basically I have to prioritize one of it. So I have to spend more time on the product, which is going good. So that's the reason.
You mentioned about staying updated, right? So in your role, of course, you are packed with a lot of things to do, but how do you try to stay updated with the latest trends, technology? How does that happen? How important is that for your current role?
It is obviously very important, right? Being in any new joiner to a product manager, everyone has to start learning newer technologies. So obviously I spend a lot of time on multiple blogging websites and all the stuff. So I try to adapt a lot of newer apps. I spend a lot of time on mobile apps, try to find new things which is coming in, start learning what is happening, the trends I follow. Reddit is where I spend more time. So that's where I started to learn a lot of things. And obviously we have a lot of groups and groups internally and externally as well. So that helps to interact. We share each other on the latest technology stack. And at least in the recent times, I spend a lot of time on podcast. I start listening during my driving, during my nighttime, and I try to spend more time on listening to things, which I'm not a reader more of. I listen a lot. So that helps me to spend more time. I like podcast more.
Got it. So, see, you've spent a substantial time with the company, what, 18
years
18 years or so. So, what keeps you going? What is that? Usually people jump companies, they move, but you've sticked on for so long. What are those aspects that you really love about the environment, or what is it that is keeping you going here?
The first thing I would say is the culture to talk to people openly, and the ideas can come from anyone, right? So that the space what I got is where I stick to this company for a longer time. I don't seem like I moving out of a company ever in my life. So that's the space I get, and that's the space I give to my team. And whenever I recruit people, I will make sure I give them a strong push on adapting to the culture. And I push them in a way where make sure you choose a company. The company should not choose a candidate, right? It is always the person who chooses the company is very, very important. So that's where I spend a lot of time, and that helps to motivated me to spend here more time. Yeah.
Okay. And one last question, which is to anyone who is out there looking for opportunities and trying to build a fruitful career, what will your advice be? Because you're someone who really started from that beginning, so humble point, to now building a larger like a product which is a world-class product, and at the same time you've had such a great journey. So what is that advice that you would give to anyone out there who's trying to build a career similar to you?
Obviously, identify what is running on your mind, right? And when you start moving from multiple things, that's where you'll get distracted. And I would say, like, when you have something running on your mind, keep chasing that dream and make sure you talk about it, you research about it, talk to people who you see it's more relevant, like, and that's where it creates more interest and more clarity on what you wanted to do. So even now I refer to my friends, my relatives and everyone, where I ask them what is running on their mind instead of going through what you want to do. So as I stated, choose a company instead of they choose you, right? That's where I spend time. I somehow selected this company. I'm persisting with it. So that's the advice I give to everyone as well.
Okay, got it. One last question, which is from my end. Did you ever imagine when you went into probably that interview, that question probably 18 years back, that this is what is awaiting you? Like, did you even think about, is this a life that you...
Never. All I wanted is to, I still remember I came in a bicycle where I just parked the bicycle out, even a street before the overall campus. I walked inside. All I wanted is to just get inside and come back, right? That's the first thing I was looking at. And each and every day I wanted to be there at least next day. That's it. I don't dream about having this life, this career and everything. My younger brother is also part of Zoho. I asked him whether he wanted to get into Zoho Schools or not. He didn't have any hesitation. He came in and he's been there for 16 years now. So, and that's how I look at it. I always look at the next day alone. All I wanted is to look at the next day and see like what can be done. The rest of it, I don't dream at all.
Got it. I mean, that's a great way to
Yeah.
look at it. Thank you so much, Saran,
Thank
for
you.
joining us today.